Welcome, everybody. Give everybody a second or two to kind of hop on, settle into chairs, get kind of comfy, because we've got an awesome webinar happening today. So, hello, everybody. My name is Felicity Therese Kruger. I'm your moderator for today. Um, I'm going to go through a couple just kind of like little things that we get to before we start the webinar. So, the webinar is Empowering Voices of Kids with Disabilities. We've got two amazing presenters, Chase and Joanna, or Joey. Oop. So we have one quick disclaimer. Um, this webinar is developed under a grant with SAMHSA and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The views, opinions, and content expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of policies centers of SAMHSA, and mental health services, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We also have closed captioning. This is kind of how to do that. Click on the CC or click on more to view closed captioning. You can also view the entire transcript through the thing. And then this webinar is being recorded. So if you do not want um, to be seen or be recorded, please turn off your camera. And if you want to see this webinar after it's happening, or after it happened, or if you thought it was a really good webinar and you want to send it to somebody, that information will be at Power to You, and we will also be sharing it afterwards. So questions will be answered at the end, just so that it's not an overwhelming task to like make sure questions are answered perfectly, like when they happen. So I will be keeping track of questions and we will make sure that they are answered at the very end. So we're going to pass it over to Joey and Chase to introduce themselves, and then we'll be showing a quick video.
Hi, my name is Chase Archangel.
And I'm Chase's mom, Joanna or Joey Archangel. I know it's just about to hit 10, so some folks might be just trickling in. Welcome everyone to the National Empowerment Center webinar. Again, this is called Empowering Voices of Kids with Disabilities. And we're really honored to be here today with you. And I think Maureen or Felicity will be sharing the video that Chase made about 4 years ago.
Yeah. And welcome to the National Empowerment Center.
Sorry, give me a second. I'm technology. Can people hear and see this?
We heard it, but it's paused right now. So if you play it.
This webinar is all about advocates. Being an advocate could be difficult, but advocates use many strategies and strengths in order to make advocacy easier and more effective. To start off, we're gonna talk about what is advocacy. Advocacy is about a person who advocates for someone and with someone. And sometimes they will help people. They would help people. Speaking of helping people, I learned something called emotional CPR. Emotional CPR is connecting, empowering, and revitalizing. That is ECPR. Now, we're going to talk about disabilities. Some people, including advocates, have disabilities. Not everyone has disabilities, and not everyone understands disabilities. But people have strengths like intelligence, you could have talents, and sometimes you are good at listening. There could be any types of strengths, like creativity. You are good at playing a piano or a certain instrument. You are good at a certain game. Those are strengths. All of them are strengths. There are also strengths about being kind. You also can be smart, strong, and kind. That's what my mom told me. This is where you're kind at, your heart. And now I'm going to talk about accommodations and strategies. Accommodations like sensories. You could take a break, go for a walk. You could sing the ABCs, or you could take deep breaths. You could also count until you feel better. And I have the disability autism. And I had an experience when I was almost kicked out of a child care program. But my mom advocated for me to not be kicked out of the child care program. And they have new child care program teachers now. Now, we gotta understand flexibility and rigidness. Flexibility has to be greater. And sometimes you would have to listen to certain opinions. People with disabilities, like me, I have autism. And sometimes I hear a certain thing, and I might not like it. But there are multiple ways to solve problems. What's ECPR? It's kind of like your emotions, like you talk to somebody. And then me-CPR. It's kind of like the ECPR about you. Your emotions going to other people. A we-CPR is an emotional CPR in a group. Sometimes you would use your ECPR and spread it to the whole group. And there's also community ECPR. It would affect everyone around your area. Not just your group, but other groups. It might affect more than one group. That's what advocates do. Make something effective and flexible using their voice, their passionate voice, and their actions. Their listening ears and their brain. Thus, there are senses you would have to use for advocacy. Now, people with disabilities have IEPs. Some people, not all people. And I have an IEP. An IEP is an individualized education program. Number one, these are the examples. Number one, one-on-one. A one-on-one will be there to support you, to have the accommodations, strategies. The accommodations I said earlier. And number two, therapist. I have a therapist. Her name is Miss Penny. And we talk about our feelings together. That's where I learned flexibility and rigidness. I'm gonna tell you what happens when I'm with Miss Penny. Number one. Me and Miss Penny check in. Next, my therapist hands me work I have to complete. Number three, sometimes we play together for a while. Like, for example, I play a game called Spot It with her. And I'm really good at the game. I just take the cards over and over and spot the thing over and over again. Then number four, I do breathing exercise. Like, my favorite one is the shark fin. It's kind of like the thumb going up and the thumb going down. And the shark fin. My mom and I came up with a checklist to check in. My mom asked me, do I feel loved, valued, safe, heard, supported, connected? My mom says I don't feel those things. I could always talk to her or someone I can trust, like my therapist or maybe a one-on-one. The checklist is kind of like ECPR, or because connected is similar to connecting. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown 'em now. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
Felicity, I don't know if you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, the YouTube kept playing. I couldn't stop it. You're all good now.
Okay. Oh, so are we reading our bio or?
Yeah, I can quickly read bios. So Chase is an autistic youth advocate and is a proud Long Beach resident. Attending the fifth grade, he is currently learning about entrepreneurship and is the founder and director of Chase After Learning (parentheses Cal), which encourages self-expression to empower neurodivergent youth to find community, increase self-awareness, develop communication skills for advocacy and promote inclusive ways of learning. He loves to play video games, create art, and learn different subjects, and spend time with his mom. Chase also loves to eat Asian foods like ramen, chicken adobo, um, banh mi. I hope I pronounced that right. And when he grows up, he'd like to be a scientist or an engineer. You can go to the next slide, and I can read Joe's. Joanna is a parent, writer, peer support, consultant, and disability rights advocate. She values finding ways to explore and honor neurodiversity, creativity, meaningful connections, and resiliency. Her career journey includes having led a peer-run respite in home in California called Hacienda of Hope, where she worked from 2015 to 2020. She also has worked within transition transitional age youth peer programs at Mental Health of America of Los Angeles that focused on career and education exploration and financial literacy. She's a community resilience model, certified teacher, and master facilitator at Core Gift Diversity. And I'm also just going to say that they're both really cool.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chase.
Welcome everyone to this webinar of empowering voices of kids with disabilities. Thank you, NEC, for having us. Next slide, please. I'll share a little bit about myself. I am in the fifth grade. I am autistic. I am Filipino and Cambodian. I love to draw, spend time with my mom, and sing songs. My favorite band to listen to is Imagine Dragons. I love martial arts. My favorite shows are Reading Rainbow, Dragon Ball Z, and BattleBots. I love movies that involve disaster and superheroes. Have any of you watched Reading Rainbow? reading rainbow, butterfly in the sky. I could go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know, and ways to grow. A reading rainbow. I can be anything, friends to know, and ways to grow. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. Reading rainbow. I love to chase after learning, which is why I started my own business called Chase After Learning, or CAL for short. Next slide, please. Everyone has a core gift within themselves. My mom interviewed me and gave me a set of questions. Through my own answers and words, I found my core gift statement. My core gift is helping others to feel safe to let their feelings out. I give it by helping them to find a variety of flavors of textures, be flexible by taking time to see a masterpiece gradually grow, and feel a better sense of belonging, and learn lessons that could guide them through life. The art drawing is a realism drawing of an apple, which I use crayons and colored pencils. Art inspired me to put the sentence by taking time to see a masterpiece gradually grow. Next slide, please. What I'll be sharing about at this webinar: how to support kids at school and home, having an emotionally and connected and empowering environment, and helping others feel safe and included in the community. Next slide, please. A couple of years ago, I asked my mom if I was too young to start my own business. She said I wasn't, and she gave me questions about my ideas. She also gave me this book called How to Start Your Own Business and Make It Work. We looked at it together, and what I love about this book is that it has colorful pictures and diagrams that show the different types of businesses, the ways you can make a business work, how you could find your mission and vision statement, and how you could identify a gap in the market. This series is from the DK How Stuff Works, and I have a lot of those books at home. In the video that was shared, I talked about how I faced challenges, how I found support, how I learned about flexibility and richness, and how I learned how to confidently advocate for yourself using your voice. Since then, I've faced many challenges that led me to start CAL. Next slide, please. These are the steps I took to start Chase After Learning. First, I jotted down a map of ideas to see how it could work. Next slide, please. Next, I broke it down and thought of who it would involve, what it would do to make an impact, and how CAL would be able to achieve that. Next slide, please. There's some support in my own answers. CAL had a mission and vision statement. CAL's mission is to encourage self-expression, to empower neurodivergent youth to find community, increase self-awareness, develop communication skills for self-advocacy, and promote inclusive ways of learning. Our vision is a world where neurodivergent youth are supported, understood, and valued within their communities. Through education, advocacy, and a strong sense of belonging, we aim to connect them with the tools they need to confidently advocate for themselves, thrive in educational settings, and reach their full potential. This is the logo which my mom designed. Next slide, please. There's a saying called, "It takes a village to raise a child." It took a community of support to support my learning. My godfather Richard, who I talked to history and science about. My mom Joanna, who was my first teacher and was there with me ever since I was a baby. She taught me how to read and was there for the good and hard times. The one with my godfather Richard was at the Sacramento airport, and that was their bunny. My mom is showing me a book, and I am joyful to read it. School and school programs like art, music, and after school also supported me. I also have other supports like my therapist, regional centers, and etc. Cindy and Nubia from the Long Beach Forward. Cindy attended my first public comment at the Board of Education meeting. Community members at events like the group coaching event Summer of Self. This was Edie and Auntie Nita's group. My friend Kumi, who has been supporting me with launching Cal. This picture was taken after one of her performances at the Long Beach Terrace Theater. She is an excellent singer. My martial arts instructor is Miss Lala and Mr. Mediano, who teaches martial arts in a flexible way. Ms. Dika and Ms. Kim from when I took petition art clinic advocacy classes, even though it's for teens. This picture was taken at the Disability Pride event, and Ms. Dika was one of the speakers. Ms. Kim also attended. And there are more supports, like friends, other parents or guardians, and local groups and businesses. Next slide, please. Helping kids like me feel respected, empowered, and included. I want to be treated with respect just like how adults get respect. For example, I don't want my recess to be taken away like how adults don't get their breaks taken away. The California Senate Bill, SB 906, says that students should at least get a certain amount of recess time each day. Kids should also have access to learning about their own rights. I also want to feel empowered and feel safe to speak up. For example, I want to feel safe to speak up about my feelings when I am uncomfortable or upset, like when a teacher or family member hurts my feelings. I also don't want to be punished for saying how I feel. I want to feel included in the community. For example, I want to not feel left out when others are playing games or doing an activity. An example is having events and programs that are inclusive to people with disabilities, like a place to learn self defense. Next slide, please. My mom taught me something called the feedback sandwich. It is important because all kids need guidance, and the feedback sandwich gives guidance in a way that is good but doesn't shame them at the same time. The bread is the part where you understand it can be hard or you aren't perfect. You could even give a compliment. The middle is the part when you can give the feedback. Make sure you do it with empathy and not shame others. More bread. This is the closure of the feedback sandwich. You could do the same as the bread on top and give them encouragement with the chance to try again or do something better. Here's an example. A teacher from third grade compared my work to someone else's in front of the whole class and said that it wasn't neat. Instead, she could have talked to me in private and said, I understand that you tried hard on this. And I know that you tried to take your time on this as well. However, it is kind of hard for me to read it. Then she could close it by saying, like, I'll give you an extra 5 minutes to do it again, or you can do it for homework again. Next page, please. Everyone has different needs and supports. Sometimes I get big feelings and worries. My mom taught me how to track my sensations when I get mad, anxious, or upset. I notice that in my body that my heart races, my muscles tighten, and I start to think about worrying stuff. I feel different from others, and I feel like I don't want others to know that I am different from them. I have autism, and sometimes it is not easy for me to fit in the crowd. Sometimes I feel like I want to mask my emotions because I don't want others to see how I'm feeling, and I also don't want to feel alone and different from others. Next slide, please. Everyone has different ways that support them, and these are ways that support me. You can ask me empowering questions, like my teacher from fourth grade did last year. She asked questions like, what do you need to succeed throughout the year? How can I help you? And so on. I also have sensory items to help, like Rubik's Cubes, stress balls, stretchy objects, and stuffed animals. You could also give me options on how I could calm myself down, like a chart. You could also give distractions, like the picture with the little nugget shaped character named Tubby Nugget. Right now his fry box is empty, but then he finds a little fry and he's grateful and he thinks it really is the little things in life. You could check your assumptions or check in with me with my feelings. You could repeat yourself or give me time to calm myself down, like a bathroom break. You could do breathing exercises like the shark fin. Dorsal fin goes up when you breathe in and it descends when you breathe out. You could also have someone to talk to about my feelings, like my therapist, my mom, or my godfather, or anyone else I trust. I also have time for drawing and journaling. This is a picture of Inside Out 2 with the clusters of emotions. Sometimes when these ways don't work, sometimes listening to music will help you. I'm gonna sing the song Believer, and if any of you know it, feel free to vibe to it. First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh. Second thing, second, don't you tell me what you think that I could be. I'm the one at the sail, I'm the master of my seal. Ooh, the master of my seal. I was broken from a young age, kicking my sulking, and a master writing my poems for the few that look at me, took me, shook me, feeling me, singing from heartache and the pain, taking my message in the veins, speaking my lesson in the brain, seeing the beauty through the pain. You made me a believer, believer. That's part of it.
Great job.
Next slide, please. These are some of the strategies for advocacy. You could talk to others about the problem and help each other find solutions together. You could speak up about issues that you might care about to people who might make decisions about that topic, like legislators and board members. You could take action and help each other make more improvements to empower communities, like public comments. In the picture, I was in front of the Sacramento, California State Capitol building. The shirt I have says autistic play is valid. Autistic play is valuable. Autistic play is creative. Autistic play is important. Autistic play is appropriate. And autistic play is meaningful. Next slide, please. The top, the saying kids are stakeholders means that kids voices matter and that their feelings count. This is something I said in one of my public comments in the board meeting. It matters how you see us. especially when you are making decisions that affect how others see us can greatly influence how we see ourselves. This is a cartoon drawing made by Olivia in, at the Disability Pride event, and it looks like me. Now I'm gonna hand it over to my mom. Mom,
Chase.
you're welcome. And nothing about us without us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really hard to know where to start and follow Chase. You did an amazing job. I can't be more proud. Uh, this, what I'm about to share, it comes with a lot of emotions, and so I'm checking in with myself right now, just noticing, how I'm feeling and sensations I'm feeling as well. Overcome with joy and pride and everyone saying how well you've done and how well you're doing. Yeah, and I can't be more proud again. And I just want to share too that everything he shared and everything that I'm about to share, we went over multiple times about consent and his privacy. That first video that you saw, um, I was really, wary about his privacy, and so when I asked him, I'm really not sure about making this public. That's when he was 8, and he said, "But mom, what if it inspires someone?" So I did listen to that and trusted his judgment about his own experiences, that he was okay with that, sharing that. I think from a young age, he's always had such a big heart. Um, and a curiosity to learn and understand how things work, as he was sharing. But I think it's so easy to see his strengths and skills and talents. I think being neurodivergent myself, and it's so easy to overlook needs, other needs, and other challenges that folks might have. I personally reject the terms high functioning, low functioning, and even at schools, high achieving. Um, Although Chase gets high scores at school and even in those sometimes dreaded state exams, standardized testings, I wouldn't know if I am okay with the term high achieving. Achieving, I think, means different things for different people. Success means different things for different people, including our students or kids with disabilities. When we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, things like that, and a sense of belonging, it needs to include the kids' voices. And I'm no, in no means a perfect parent. I'm constantly learning, and I check in with Chase a lot. I learn a lot from him. He's growing. If you watched, how many of you watched Inside Out and Inside Out 2? There's things we can't control, and things kids are having their own journey, um, having their own challenges, and they have their own set of skills and strengths. And honoring that means also paving ways for them to understand about empowerment. And I think that's just the path that I'm lucky to be a part of, a profession that highlights about that. So some of my background, I'm also a person with lived experience of navigating services in mental health. I'm a person with a lived experience of involuntary hospitalization. There's a lot of stigma about that. I'm also a person who, came to this country as an immigrant. And I'm an Asian woman, and for the most part of my life, especially when I was growing up, we were very low income. So a lot of those identities kind of, um, that's what I was navigating. And had struggles in school as well of succeeding in the ways that success was defined typically. What did help were, a mentor, a teacher who was maybe the one, um, healthy adult in my life growing up. So highlighting the importance of, Chase mentioned, it takes a village. That village also needs to be accessible. That village needs to be inclusive. That village needs people to be allies. And I want to thank those of you who actively do that, especially our disability rights advocates. Um, and I want Chase to have not just um, people to look up to, but also an understanding of that he has communities, and the understanding about the history of it. Since he loves history, I think just merging that. I asked if, even though the classes were for teens, I did reach out to Miss Kim, who he mentioned, and asked, is it okay? He's only 11, but he's really interested in taking this class, and I would love for him to participate, because we didn't really see anything that was available for kids his age. And so he's actually the one carving that for his peers, and really listening to what piece he would like to go. Um, with my professional career, being able to, like, one of my experiences was supervising and managing a peer-run respite, which, if you're not familiar with that, in very short words, it's a space where people can stay and step away from the current environment when they're experiencing mental health crises. And the place where I worked, they had their own room. It's not a locked facility. They had access to their day-to-day lives, at the same time, access to support, people with lived experience and training, to help, provide them with whether that's resources or support groups or just a space, right? There's not a lot of spaces where we can just focus on our mental health or actively participate in community and focus on our mental health with those supports, without it taking away from our autonomy. And so that's a little bit of my background. And again, I'm very fortunate to have that enhance my parenting style and my relationship with Chase. And at the same time, working with Chase, knowing him, again, I learn a lot. So that also helps my work. Um, and this is something that I also try to champion in my community. In a lot of mental health spaces, I think cross disabilities isn't talked about enough. And so that's something I would love to promote. Just talk to people with lived experience of different disabilities and work with them as allies. And I'm really excited to be doing stuff in my community, directly with the people that I so admire, and lucky to be able to call my friends now. And what else? There's something that I asked Chase, again, with his consent, if he was okay with me to share. I talked a little bit about his challenges. There's a lot that, yes, yes, that one. Yes, and he said, I said, can I share this? And I said I wasn't sure, because it is really personal. And he said, but mom, I think that means, like, maybe people want to be empowered, being able to talk about stuff like that. So here it is. Yeah. Well, first the video talked about him being almost kicked out of a childcare program. So that was one of the very first experiences we had with discrimination. For 3 months, I was having to pick him up from school and then drop him off somewhere else. Um, Meanwhile, I was advocating for him not to be kicked out of that program that was located at the school. That was when he was 5. And I dove deep into, special education rights and what accommodations we can have, what kind of supports is available, and also being available emotionally there for Chase. while he's navigating this. At the time he was 5, Chase also gave me permission to share. Um, he wasn't as verbal as he is now. He also had taken speech therapy. And it was really hard for me as a parent then not to hear directly from him what went on, not to hear directly from him to explain his emotion. And Mama Bear kicks in, and that's finding community support was everything. Learning, having access to things like Long Beach Board's parent organizing training, things like that, really helped me not feel so alone and also navigate these different systems. And when we talk about intersecting identities, I'm a person with lived experience. And so navigating these systems made me a lot more anxious. At the same time, I was wearing so many hats. I'm a supervisor of a place that was run 24/7, and I had to give up my lunch break to drive from his school to drop him off somewhere and then back to work. And so for 3 months, I sacrificed my lunch breaks, had to talk to my employers about why I needed to do this instead of being flexible about what time I took my break. And I, being a manager then, I really wanted to be flexible for my team and for the people who were staying at the rest ed. And so that could contribute to burnout, right? If there's things in place that's happening at your home life or with your family. And I was stretching myself thin. Um, and I learned a lot of advocacy, filed a complaint. Long story short, he was able to get back into that program. And since then, again, new teachers, and there's a different coordinator now who I think they're amazing. And he's thriving there. And I just didn't want him to be left with that message of you don't fit. And that's the words they use. Some kids are just not a good fit. And they met him on that day. Um, and the other thing that I wanted to share um, was that recently in December of last year, and it was actually, last year, a student threatened him. He said, "You're going to die today," while he was pulling out something from his backpack, and Chase ran for his life. Um, the, I heard this directly from Chase last year as we were driving home from from the after school program. So I didn't get a phone call from any teacher. I didn't get a phone call from anyone. I had to find this out from him. And so I pulled over, I listened to him, and again, just having awareness, the knowledge of how trauma can affect our bodies and our brains. I felt everything within me, like my child, just picturing my child feeling that threat, feeling threatened enough to have to run for his life. How scary that must have been for him. And not having communication about it as a parent, that was not okay. Um, and again, I love the teachers he had, but there was still a gap of, hey, this is missing, and I need to be informed, not just because he has a disability, but all kids should be able to feel safe at school, and their families should be able to know what's going on so that they can best support them. And I think about, as an advocate, I think about, well, what if my son was not speaking? Would I know about this? What if my son didn't want to articulate it at home, or what if a child out there didn't have someone at home that they could talk to? Or what about language barriers? How would that be conveyed? So it's just very fortunate that Chase was able to let me know what happened to him. The student also said, "I know what a real gun looks like." And so with those words together, "I know you're going to die today, and I know what a real gun looks like," not having a phone call and not having the school take like quick action to support both children was not okay. And to see Chase deal with effects of what happened, him being startled with noises, not feeling safe when it's just when he's alone or when he's in a small group, that was really hard and for both of us. And that's also when I remind him about tracking because that can pop up even if he's not directly thinking about what happened to him. And a couple months later, or about a month later, when we were brainstorming about what would it mean for him to feel more empowered and feel more safe, um, and that's when he first did his public comment at a Board of Education meeting, kind of addressing what he went through and some recommendations as well. And I also spoke there about um, being able to support the kids and how we can do that together. Um, let's see. I'm just incredibly proud of him that he's able to articulate his emotions, but it's also not his job um, by himself. So I just want to advocate for more accessible places and ways that kids can learn to understand not just the social emotional learning aspect of it, but their rights. He talked about his IEP, which he's been attending a couple of his IEP meetings. And I think not a lot of kids know they even have an IEP. So there's that saying, right, Chase?
Yeah. Kids are stakeholders.
Yeah, and that nothing about us without us. I think it's going to look different for each child and each situation. But I do think that there's a double kind of assumption. Like, for instance, I work in mental health, and I'm a person with lived experience. So there's that stigma. There can be that stigma. And there can also be, for people with disabilities, a lot of people make assumptions. There's not enough, um, I think, access and true allyship to be able to understand what that would look like in different settings. And for me, working with Chase, I'm definitely learning what that looks like. Um, and he's called me out on stuff too. And that's something I'm proud of. Like, I can, as a parent, I can think, oh, he's talking back, but is he really, or is he mentioning or communicating to me something? So he said to me, oh, please don't assume how I feel. And I was like, yes, you're right. And so just checking in with him. And for kids, I think, for me, I want to protect him uh, because he's not just my son, but not burdening him because he's a kid. But I also don't want to just diminish his capacity of understanding. And he was young enough to face discrimination. He's young enough to be bullied, to hear these things. And his own individual thirst for learning and also his um, willingness and his empathy to assist and support others in finding their own empowerment. That's what led me to continue, this journey with him and support him in what he's pursuing. This is no different than me, you know, getting him a CD player and Imagine Dragons CDs because he loves the band. Um, yeah, I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to, encourage people to think about how you can, support kids and other, even adults and young adults in your community, um, especially those of us in the mental health community. A lot of our rights and our struggles intersect. And so I just want to thank you for attending and for being part of this dialogue with us. And it is really special for me to be able to do a Chase. Um, yeah, and I can't wait to read all the comments and hear from you as well. So we can move on to the next slide.
Thank you for listening to this presentation. Do you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me, for us? This is our Chase Active Learning email address.
And I'll turn it over to Felicity. There's a question.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So, while people are kind of like maybe typing in questions or just thanking you guys for the webinar, I did have a question for Chase. Chase, what would you say to another kid that's maybe nervous about starting advocacy?
I would say that maybe like he could like like having advocacy can also be like having empathy for others, and it's like be like yourself while you're advocating, like put your thoughts out there so people could try to convey the message.
Thank you so much. Somebody's asking if maybe one of you guys wouldn't mind typing the email in the chat for people. But thank you so much, Chase. We're excited too. Awesome.
Thank you, Oryx.
A lot of people were really felt really represented in what a lot of you guys what a lot of what you guys said, and we're really really grateful for you guys being here, and everybody loved Chase's singing. Joey, how do you manage like your own emotions throughout this, like throughout big things with your kid? It can be, I can't imagine how difficult it could be.
Yeah, thank you. I guess it's different for each situation and where I'm at, and I think my drive for just wanting to show up as fully as I can for Chase. And again, I'm not perfect. Um, I think that it is the way I try to navigate um, my emotions, and also um, examining my, you know, what can we do about something, and also slowing down. Like, is this something I need to solve right now? And just be present with him. There's times where he'll just talk straight and I'm just there listening and not fixing. And there's times where I'm teaching him coping strategies. Like, one example is being neurodivergent myself, and it's tough for a lot of girls, women, those assigned female at birth, who are neurodivergent, who constantly mask that for many different reasons. That means not, you know, being able to see visibly what's going on. So when I want to scream, or I'm having like a panic attack while I'm having to be in an IEP meeting, which is I have to track my sensations. I have to go in there, prepare, do my homework. Like, I have so many books on, like, one that I would recommend is like From Emotions to Advocacy. Just preparing yourself, and also taking a step back from that and just doing something fun. Um, he identifies as being autistic, but that's a part of who he is. Um, but he's also a singer, an artist, uh, just remembering that for myself too. And my inner child is also healing through seeing him thrive and doing things with him.
Thank you so much. You guys are so inspiring. We have a question in the chat that's for Chase. What do your classmates think of what you're doing?
Most of my classmates don't know, but if they think it might like change their minds, like on like this stuff, like they might think of like a positive like perspective if they were able to like see this.
Oh, thank you. We've got a question that's for both of you. How do you each practice self-care through your advocacy work, throughout your advocacy work?
Okay. I guess, or how would you share, Felicity? What can you define that for Chase? He asked.
Yeah, so what, because advocacy and being and talking and doing all these big things can be draining. So what's something that you do to take care of yourself when afterwards, after you've done something like this?
Like sometimes I could give myself like kindness, and like my mom told me to like be your own best friend, and I do that for myself. Like even though I get like full of worry, sometimes when I'm happy, I do something happy for myself.
That's awesome. I'm just imagining you like in the mirror pumping yourself up. That's
Thank
so
you.
cool.
Yeah, and today is Wednesday. So yesterday he had martial arts. That's something he enjoys, right? Yeah. And I just wanted to give a, shout out to Mixed Miracle Arts because having a place that's inclusive to do, martial arts, and I think communities need to think about this more of those experiences of what that is, what that means. It means everything. Um, and they work so well with kids. But that's just one example of having an outlet. He also, journals, draws. He mentioned it in one of his slides, what he likes to do. So all of that is self-care, Chase, like everything that you mentioned there. Getting a sensory item, like we literally have a Rubik's Cube right here, just in case. Right here. For me, it's always a work in progress. I was very fortunate for when the threat happened, being able to not have to go to work physically the next day. And so I could ask him, hey, I don't think we should go to school tomorrow until we have all of this cleared, until we know you're safe to come back to school. And so I believe in mental health days. That's something I think, especially being an immigrant and neurodivergent, like if I'm given a structure, I used to automatically think I had to follow it. For instance, like I had to get a job that's 9 to 5. Being an entrepreneur now as well, doing consulting work, training, I'm very lucky to have that flexibility. And my executive functioning on some days are not great. So it gives me that flexibility. At the same time, I have to like push myself. So having a sense of structure and flexibility, which Chase is teaching me a lot of. Yeah.
Thank you. So we have another question. What was the thing that was most helpful for you when starting your journey in disability advocacy, and or finding resources for you and Chase?
And here's another thing I'm teaching Chase. It's okay to ask, can you please repeat that?
Yeah.
Because I got distracted.
You're totally good. What was whoa, now I'm messing words up. What was the thing that was most helpful for you when starting your journey in disability advocacy and or when you were looking for resources to choose?
Like so my mom like advocated for me and has done a lot, and like I got to like learn how I could advocate to myself, and through guiding like I was able to like find like I was able to switch up like things, and like I found like questions I could ask, and I asked them and I found more answers, and like the thing I do like in advocacy is to keep looking for answers sometimes.
Thank you, baby. Yeah, and again, like, I guess when I first started, I mean, just having him as a baby, as a toddler, like a lot of that is nonverbal, right? So just I think that not just intuition, but keying in on stuff. I don't know if there's like construction happening. Can you hear that or am I okay? Okay. Um, yeah, I'm trying not to be distracted. Yeah, when he was first diagnosed, um, you know, Oh, wait, let's not get there. We're going to when he was a child, when he was a toddler, still a child, gosh. And I would like sing to him kind of instructions because I kind of keyed in on, hey, he listens kind of better or more if I sing it. And then teachers are onto something. Yes, they're amazing. And also, like when I was learning how to play guitar, I would tune it, and he would actually hum the note. And I was like, whoa, look at that ear, that great ear. He has more music skills than I do. And so that's just something like, okay, that's something I'm going to use. So him not being as verbal speak, like he wasn't reaching the milestones that, pediatricians give you. Didn't let that get in the way. I still read to him. He would have more of an echolalia, which he would repeat. So he couldn't tell me, Mom, hey, Mom, I'm hungry at 4 years old. Um, but, it's just figuring out a way to communicate, um, regardless. And just, yeah. And then for advocacy, like, when he was first diagnosed, he gave me books like recommendations, like how to overcome autism, things like that. Yeah, he just said overcome. He's like, yeah, exactly. That's my thought. Like, what do you mean overcome? But then, having been in this field, I thought about lived experience. So that's the first thing I started looking up people with the lived experience of autism. And that's where I found, neurodiversity and diving in. And just again, learning that for myself, what that looked like, what that meant. And I'm still learning. Um, yeah, advocacy, there's so much out there. And I think it can be really intimidating, especially there's so many barriers, right? And um, to accessing that information, and maybe it could mean, oh, you have to attend 5 of these meetings, and I can't take off work and things like that. That's why we love things like the how stuff works, because you can access it yourself, and there's graphs, there's pictures, there's videos out there of people talking about their lived experience, and community organizing is great. It can be intimidating for many people who might be introverts, who might, have social anxiety. So I do think like what I started to do was reach out individually to people and have one-on-ones with them. Getting to know them, it helped me kind of understand how the lay of the land goes, and being invited for leaders and people who are in the position to include people with diverse lived experiences, and not just your like typical experts. You know, I think, yeah, and kids too, like they're underrepresented. So just listening to them in a way that they feel heard, and in a way that they're accessing the information, so that they can understand it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We have a question that is a bit sorry, I got a phone call and everything, and my dog is climbing up. So things are just happening here. But we have a question that's very similar to kind of that answer that you just gave, but more specific and communication. So, Chase, how would you encourage a kid who maybe struggles to communicate with their parents, what would you tell them? How would you encourage them to communicate if they might struggle with that?
Not communication.
This one.
Like maybe they could like try to like talk to like someone. Like at least like it doesn't have to be like just their mom. Like they might be able to like talk to someone, like a counselor, a therapist, someone else they could like get get support from with and from and also like even if they don't have the type of communication me and my mom do have, like maybe they could like they could like work something out with like someone else they trust, like a guardian, someone else.
That's such an amazing idea, Chase. Uh, Joey, what would you tell parents that are struggling with communication?
Thank you. Well, first, if I can share something that Chase did with me, that's okay. He's like, basically gave me the sandwich feedback. Um, and again, parenting, it'll backfire on you, but in some ways, if you don't look at it as backfiring, it's like my parenting is working. He's like, Mom, I really love that you want to guide me. And but I also, and I know you can have different emotions, but I really am trying to share this with you. Um, and I don't want you to get mad at me. So like it alerts me, right? Like, okay, like I have to check myself and not assume things. I have to check myself and not, put my feelings first and how I want to fix something he's about to share. Because, as guardians, as parent caregivers, we want the best, right, for our kids, and we're human too, right? Like if you had a hard day at work, maybe you didn't get enough sleep, it's easy to be cranky. So for me, it's just not dumbing. I'm sorry to say this, but like not like assuming like he's not capable of communicating what he needs with me. I told him to, like, if you're not ready to share with me, maybe you can write it down and think, you know, um, when you're ready to tell me, then you can. But I do tell him, especially with safety, I really prefer to know as early as possible. But I understand there's just some things maybe it's harder, but I want you to at least tell your therapist, tell someone about it if you think it's something that concerning safety. Um, and yeah, I just apologizing. I think I can't just stress that enough. If I mess up, I need to apologize. Just because he's my kid doesn't mean I can't say, you know what, I should have handled that situation very differently. I'm going to work on that and actually like be accountable to working on that, whether that's on my own or both with him. Like I can negotiate with him. Like, I tell Chase, hey, maybe like not right after I get off work, maybe give me some time, to get out of my change clothes or to do this. And then maybe you can alert me and let me know, hey mom, can I talk to you about something? And that's been really helpful.
Thank you so much. So we've only got a couple more questions left. Chase, what are some things that people do that make you feel loved or valued?
Some things that make me feel loved and valued is spending time with my mom and your godfather, and for us also like go to like certain places where I can feel relaxed, warm, content, all those positive emotions brought into me.
I have a quick thing to ask, actually. Like, Chase has brought up with me that a teacher disclosed at one point her disability. And then, do you want to share about the nurse too?
Yeah, like also like there's like this nurse like uh, like about 1 year ago like I saw her because like I got like an injury, so I had to like see her. Then she asked something about my autism and how it is, and they said like there's nothing wrong about it. Like the thing is that I could like regulate. Like if I the what matters is like if I could like regulate it and like my emotions in some way. And then a few months later, the same nurse who I talked to about that realized learned got diagnosed with ADHD, and also like she said she had anxiety at work sometimes and sometimes, and then she gave me like this shirt and like something so it could go to the like about the LBC Hero Squad
Yeah. Yeah, that same
and
nurse.
it's a Hey You're Rad shirt.
Yeah, that same nurse called me and said, hey, Chase is okay. But I just want to tell you, he said something months ago that I remembered that inspired me. And so I didn't know about that. Um, with making him feel loved, with kids making them feel loved. For kids with disabilities, part of that is how do we do that as a community, right? Having accessible and inclusive spaces, that's part of love. Sorry to answer with Chase, but
No, it's okay. You don't need to be sorry for anything.
He's so true about that. Sorry about Ginger. She thinks she's the star of the show always. So we've got two more questions. For Chase, what advice would you give an adult who has trouble understanding like another kid's emotions?
I would say like so like if they're wanting to share, like maybe be patient with them or like be more open to like understanding their emotions and like try to find ways that could support them and but also like with patience and a way that empowers kid you're trying to talk to who's trying to talk to them.
Definitely, thank you so much. And our final question, what are the next steps for Chase after learning?
The next thing that I want to do which is after learning is so like I might like do like this event like where we have pizza but then we also have like I also could have another event like which I could like spend some money like on books and other stuff so I could set up like an event which people could attend and I could also set up like an Instagram and a website possibly and possibly yeah we started like our Instagram and we're working on making our first video, the introductory, and that's what I plan to do next with starting Cal.
Awesome. I did lie to you. We have one last question that came up whenever we were talking about things that make you feel loved and valued. Somebody asked, when that nurse shared her experience, how did it make you feel?
It just it made me feel like surprised like that I like inspired her and also good that like I inspired them at the same time and it's also like a something like that's unexpected but it was like it felt like good like to get like pleasure and now like and I felt like proud of myself to know like she was inspired by that what he said.
yeah. And we need that representation for kids with disabilities to see not just and to learn not just about famous people or people who've done, the big things, people in their communities, that, representation of um, folks with disabilities, to see themselves and to see the future and to hear from their voices and to yeah, to guide them, support them, and also to collaborate with them. The next steps for Cal, she was talking about like learning about identifying the gap. So one of the gaps we did see is that there's not really spaces for kids to meet each other, especially kids with disabilities, yes. To meet each other and at school, you'll have like autism awareness month and they'll plaster like puzzle pieces everywhere and that maybe they'll read a book about, a couple famous people with autism. But beyond that, where can they meet each other unless the parents are actively doing something or guardians or um and that's not always the case, right? People always have barriers. Like I'll let you know that we are able to afford his martial arts through services, and not everybody will have, the same access to different support systems. Maybe people, um, yeah, and next steps for Cal is she was mentioning like hosting something for kids to be able to attend and so they could meet each other.
And learn more about each other.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you guys so much. I think everybody would echo what I'm saying is that you guys are both inspiring and amazing and doing incredible things for not only your community but yourselves. So we thank you guys for being here. This was a webinar I know everybody in NEC was so excited to have and to see Chase grow on his advocacy journey. So we thank you guys for being here. Um,
Can we read the comment there? I think that's really amazing. Um,
the
our daughter,
yeah. Do you want me to read it or you guys want to read it?
for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So somebody said, our daughter is 7 years old, and we are so very proud of her and her ability to express her feelings. And it's wonderful to see another kid being proud of who he is and expressing. Great job all around. Very positive webinar.
Thank you all for that.
Thank you all.
We can save the chat, right?
That is a tech question.
Yeah, we should be able to.
Okay, cool,
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you everyone for attending again and
Thank you everyone for
NEC
attending.
support.
And thank you, NEC, for having us.
Thank you guys.
Welcome. Wait, hold on.
No.
Smart, strong, time, together.